At some point, my afternoons turned into this rhythm of scrolling, eating, scrolling, sleeping. And when I tried to lean into the cute, Pinteresty, structured afternoon routine, it just didn't seem to want to stick. So I made a point to try and transform my afternoon routines using a different approach. And in the past few months, my 5 to 9 has become a highlight of my days, something I actually look forward to. But also a time where I often get things done, end up solving problems that I didn't think that I would solve, and working on my goals without really pushing myself to do that. In this video, I want to talk about a few of the small changes that I've made that have made my afternoon routine way better. Stop seeing afternoons as a time that you have to plan and start seeing afternoons as a time that you get to play. So you've probably had a point in your life where you've been like, okay, I'm going to use my afternoons to the fullest. You were going to work on your painting, get into crochet, start your business, whatever. And then your afternoons would roll around and you'd be like, this is where I went wrong with my afternoon routines. Most people spend their days filled with a lot of shoulds. I should answer that email. I should get around to that report. I should fix that thing on my website. You don't usually get to spend too much time in your day doing the things that you just feel like doing in the moment, which is why loading your afternoons with shoulds is the worst approach to take. Instead, you want to start treating your afternoons like you were a kid. I stopped pre-planning in these productive activities and I started sort of following the fun in my afternoons, just like my 10-year-old self would have. And just this one little mental change has switched up completely how I spend my afternoons. I often use the comfy chair exercise to do this, which I talk about in my video on casually life-changing habits. I'll have a link below. And this is something that I started doing more when I read this quote by Dr. Neil Fior, the author of The Now Habit. One of the reasons that we procrastinate is out of a fear that once we start working, there will be no time for play, that work will deprive us of play and the enjoyment of life. Guilt-free play offers you a way around this problem by insisting that you plan recreation into your weekly schedule. Making play a priority in your life is part of learning to overcome procrastination. At the start of this year, I hit this point of like mini burnout where I just felt myself resisting everything. And when I read this book, it made me realize I didn't have very much time in my life dedicated to guilt-free play and following my curiosity. So when I started seeing my afternoons as time for guilt-free play, everything started changing. I started looking forward to my afternoons more, and I became more productive during my days because I knew that I had this time set aside dedicated to guilt-free play where I wasn't following a should or a have to. It made me less resistant to the shoulds and have tos in my 9 to 5. I also use this Notion page. It's sort of a favors for your future self Notion page. I have a list of all these things that I could do to benefit my future self. But instead of the usual approach to habits, which is like, okay, gotta get it done, I like to ask myself, like, what out of this list do I actually feel pulled towards doing? Like, what of this list feels like fun to me right now? Not only does that allow me to tap into guilt-free play, it also separates me from my future self. I feel like I'm doing favors from my future self. I create a relationship with my future self, and I naturally want to take care of future me a little more. Some of my afternoons have led me to learn new things using the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. For example, I've been trying to create a bit more of an intentional marketing plan, so I hit up Skillshare and they have a class called Digital Marketing Strategy, Profitable Sales Funnel Fundamentals. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creators. They have classes on everything. All of their classes are led by people who are experts in their fields. These are a lot of people that you would know. You've got Thomas Frank on there, Ali Abdaal, actual experts, people who know their stuff that you know. Whether you want to learn how to draw really legit looking flowers like I did through a Skillshare class, or you want to learn to start selling digital products on Etsy, Skillshare has a class on it. They have classes on how to use Notion, how to be more productive, how to use Procreate, UI and UX, video editing, and more. You can use Skillshare to up level in your current career. You can use it to create your side hustle, but you can also use it to explore your passions more or have fun with hobbies. The class that I am doing helped me to think a little bit more intentionally about the kind of content that I create and what the purpose of each piece of content is. This is something that does not come naturally to my brain. I just like to create. I never think about things like marketing funnels, even though I know I should. And I was so grateful that Skillshare had a class on this because it made it so easy. I was like, where do I start? Skillshare. The first 500 people to use my link to sign up to Skillshare will get 1 month for free. Click the link below to access 1 month for free of Skillshare for the first 500 people. So when I leaned into this concept of guilt-free play in my afternoons, that really shifted things for me. But I was only really able to lean into that once I took care of my phone. My brain has historically loved a scroll, and the temptation to scroll away the afternoon is so real, especially because you're low energy. It's so easy. So there are 2 things that I did to make sure that my afternoons weren't phone focused. Number 1, I started asking myself the question, am I having fun? When I started asking this question, it made me realize that after about 15 to 20 minutes of scrolling on TikTok, I am full. I am full of other people's opinions, other people's thoughts, feelings. I'm full of entertainment. I'm ready to move on. But when I don't ask that question, I just keep on scrolling mindlessly. Especially if I'm low energy, it's afternoon. It's very similar to me to overeating. You're just eating to eat. You're not actually enjoying or getting anything from the food. However, the act of actually just picking up my phone and starting to scroll is so wired into my brain that I also have a physical barrier that I like to use, which is this little phone lockbox. I pop my phone in on charge, lock it for the next 10 hours. And just these two little changes have made such a big difference to my afternoon. At night, I just feel like it's harder for me to make myself do things in the afternoon. So when it came to eating in the afternoon, I would end up spending a lot of time procrastinating, making my meals, and also I'm just a really slow cook. So to get past that, I've been ingredient prepping and low effort meal collecting. Ingredient prepping means I always try to have a batch of pre-cooked rice and pre-cooked pasta in my fridge. I have some easy, ready to go sauces at hand at all times. I try to always have cooked tofu ready to go. And when it comes to low effort meal collecting, I'm a fiend for things like Logan's cucumber recipes. I have personally messaged him and been like, hey Logan, do you think you'd release like a digital ebook full of all of your cucumber recipes? Because I would be down to buy it. Ideally vegetarian. He has not responded. Of course he hasn't. But my kingdom for a book of easy cucumber recipes. But also I have a few other really simple recipes that I kind of rotate through. I really just lowered my standards when it came to the hardest part of my afternoon, which was feeding myself. And you really want to do that for anything that feels like it's this big effortful thing in your afternoon. Even if that's something like showering or prepping for the next day, try and think about how you can lower your standards. Try to think about what you could do in advance. Try to think about how you could change your environment to make things easier. Next up, having a thinking cutoff time. So about a year ago, I was consistently waking up at 3 a.m. every morning. That's not true. I was consistently waking up at 3 a.m. at least a few times a week. And it was becoming a problem, but my brain would just wake up and it would just want to think about absolutely nothing useful. So I bought this book called Hello Sleep. It was recommended by my sister. The one thing that it really focuses on is hyper-arousal, because in everyone who struggles with insomnia, hyper-arousal seems to be a thing. And hyper-arousal just means like you think too much and not in a cute, smart way. And having a thinking cutoff time was the cure for my little 3 a.m. wake up sessions. Past 8 p.m., I try not to do anything that will make me think. I might transition to like an easy breezy TV show or a less exciting book or a gentle brain dump. That doesn't get me too jazzed. Some people it does though, I know. People talk so much about developing discipline and like, when it comes to like eating and exercise. And I feel like putting in the reps to step out of your thinking brain when all your brain wants to do is think, self-discipline. It truly is a game of continuing to put in the reps even when it is hard. However, I still have some nights where I might wake up in the night or struggle to get to sleep sometimes. And that is when I use the ABC game, which works for me so reliably, and I learned about it on TikTok. So this is a game that truly somehow just switches off your thinking mind. You pick a category, for example, fruit or girls' names, and then you go through your ABCs, thinking of items within that category that start with each letter. This truly is kind of like a meditation. Like you will start doing it and then you'll get distracted and then you'll have to go back to it. But it reliably puts me to sleep. The other thing that I'm really big on when it comes to my afternoon routine is turning off all of the overhead lights. I always use only orangey lamps at night. And I feel like that topic has been over discussed. You get it. But at the same time, it's one of those little changes that makes a really big difference. And it's quite simple to do. Like anyone can do it. Anyone can make that switch. If you're so low energy of your afternoon, you're just like, okay, like this all sounds good. But when I get home, like I just feel like I need to lie down and rest. I created a video on how to stop feeling low energy all the time that might be helpful. I'm gonna have it linked on the screen. I talk about a few things that you can do during your days that can help with your energy levels, and it might be helpful to implement those things before you go about trying to get an afternoon routine going. That'll be linked on the screen as well as in the description below. I appreciate you so much and I'll see you soon.